Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm very happy to see that we have such a crowd with attendees all over the world. And just to make this a bit more interactive and a bit more engaging, what if you would drop us a note in the chat panel and let us know what city you're joining us from? My name is Maria Horstiuk. I am based out of Bucharest, Romania, and I am the head of studio experience here at Cognizant Softvision. So basically, I'm in charge of creating amazing experiences, both for our partners and our associates, as I hope this one will be for you today as well. I'm here to introduce you to someone who went through the ups and downs of life, learned from them, and who will today walk you through these experiences that made him who he is today. And since you're probably all wondering what a piano, prosciutto, and CEO have in common, let me tell you a bit about this talk that you're going to hear. Trained as a classical pianist, but also first in line to take over the family charcuterie business, this talk takes us behind the scenes with CEO Andres Angelani and how he learned the importance of honing one's craft and developing mastery at a very early age. The discussions shows how his journey inspired him to become a successful technology executive and the main key takeaways that programmers can learn in order to achieve a mastery that aligns with their passion and purpose. Who is Andres? Since March 2017, Andres is the Chief Executive Officer for Cognizant Softvision, continuing in this role throughout the company's acquisition by Cognizant in the late 2018. Prior to Softvision, Andres was one of Globant's pioneers and served as Chief Solutions Officer. He successfully created multi-million-dollar practices, fostering a culture of continuous discovery through design, technology, processes, and talent, all blended together to drive digital innovation at scale for the company's global customers. His second book, Transforming While Performing: How to Create a Culture of Innovation with Partners, was published in October of last year and aggregates the many years of experience in building innovation throughout culture and alongside customers. This book received many endorsements from analysts, editors, tech enthusiasts, and tech influencers, and was the winner of the 2020 International Book Awards in the General Business category, but also a finalist for the 2019 Best Book Awards. Andres currently lives in New York and has American, Italian, and Argentinian citizenships. He holds a bachelor degree in business from University of Belgrano in Buenos Aires, and when he's not at work, he enjoys CrossFit training, running, and skiing with his wife Laura and their 4 children. And as you can imagine, he's also passionate about classical music. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to probably the best pianist amongst CEOs and the best CEO amongst prosciutto makers, our very own Cognizant Softvision CEO, Andres Angelani. Andres, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Maria. That's not true. There are definitely better pianists in the community. So, hey, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for Programmers Week. I'm here, down here in the screen, so we're just trying this little trick on Zoom, so hopefully it works. But, you know, we started yesterday with Programmers Week, and I'm really so happy that all of you have joined us this year. Today, I want to share a story about piano playing, prosciutto making, and what are the connections to this thing that we call mastery. So it seems everything is remotely distant, but hopefully we'll make a connection as we go through the presentation and the Q&A. So it's actually a personal story, but I'm using it to talk about something considerably bigger than just me. So what do dried meats and playing piano have to do with each other? And what do these have to do with the mastery, or what is mastery? So in the next 20-25 minutes, I hope that you learn something new about me, but also about some other members of our team, your own career journeys. We find a common definition for mastering, and also, you know, how you apply that to yourselves. So I grew up in a pretty humble household, about 2.5 hours outside of Buenos Aires in Argentina, and I'll be the first one to admit there was quite a nerd, and is it's just plain small, but I guess I'm still one. I was really into math and solving problems. I like classical music, which pushed me deeper into the sort of nerd category as a teenager. And I also, liked learning languages, primarily English is my second language. So you figure, right? So the kid that you see there in the photo is me in front of my house in the town. I was probably 5. I named the pony there Betisa, which in Spanish means it's the definition of pony. So my pony was named Pony. So creativity really must have happened a bit later in my life, as it was not shown as my originality was when I was a kid. So my love with the piano, I started when I was 5, about the age that I was there, very little. And I trained for years and years to become a classical pianist. It's something I'm very much into still today, actually, but obviously I don't have the hours that it requires to kind of master the skill. You can always have to keep playing. And for anyone who is into music or plays an instrument, you know the work that's involved in developing the skill. Art forms really touch the soul, so to speak. It starts pretty small, tapping on some keys to make simple tunes, and then it builds up over time. So some people say practice makes you better, or practice makes perfect. The makes perfect is what I really learned to deconstruct playing piano. There's no such a thing as perfect. It's really never perfect for the piano. And that's actually good because you learn to love the journey more than the destination. And it's more realistic to assume that really perfection is unreachable, but improvement, systematic improvement is certainly feasible. Outside of the piano and being a young nerd, my childhood mostly revolves around my family's charcuterie business. And this is kind of the cured meats business. And I apologize to the vegans here. The 2 Angelanis that you see there in the picture, brothers, they started the company after a couple of bankruptcies in other businesses back in the 70s in Argentina. My family really has learned a great deal of failures, like any other family, I guess. Another point to note is that my parents finished their schooling sometime around the 6th grade. They lived in the farms, and it was really not possible for them to go to high school. So they needed to work around the farm. They actually carved their own paths, as my dad puts it, always is, he says, he went to the University of the Street. So my dad had the charcuterie business. My mother had a small textile business where she actually sold fabrics to local tailors in the town. So back in the day in the town, you would have to buy, you have your clothes custom made really for weddings, parties, or ceremonies. So for example, women would pick their designs from magazines and then have a tailor craft the clothes. So from a very young age, the small business and craftsmanships, I learned to appreciate that. Arts were really celebrated as a symbol of dignity in the family, especially I was living in an immigrant community. My grandparents left Italy after the war and immigrated to Argentina. So even in the ups and downs that are typical of any business, throughout the downturns of the Argentinian economy, which unfortunately have been many, my parents always sort of kept a positive attitude and focused their attention on recovery when we were down and growth in the up cycles. So kind of a never give up sort of attitude, right? So that's a picture over there. I'm raising the cup, and my 4 kids, my wife and my mom and dad were there when we lived in California a few years ago. So running businesses really took tons of work, the business in the family, and we really did it as a family. Also, family businesses have also another dimension of complexity, but much is learned in separating business performance from the affection, and it's really pretty hard. So the young me, sort of the pianist wannabe at that point, spent a lot of time helping to make charcuterie in the family shop. I was really highly involved with a family business. And much like playing the piano, there is a huge commitment and craftsmanship that goes into curing meats and charcuterie. Some meat like prosciutto can take up to a year before they're ready to be sold and eaten. So there is a painstaking process that you have to follow and appreciate to do it right. My family taught me this process, and I sort of started to consume this from a very young age. So prosciutto, is cured with special selected sea salts. You have to establish the right air circulation in the room, maintain tight control of pH, acidity levels. It's quite the process. Everything needs to work together to achieve the high-end quality product. Otherwise, it's just all kind of run-of-the-mill. So my family really worked really hard at improving the craft. And we currently have very, very good products and a good reputation and trust with the customers. And this is a business that has been growing slowly, but has been alive and thriving for 40 years. So there's me. This was a business that everyone, particularly my parents, assumed that I would run as I grew older. It's my mom and me. So it's an ideal that's deeply rooted in my culture as a descendant of Italians. The oldest of the sons is supposed to take over. It's like a kind of stupid, but it's rare there, and it's pretty powerful, right? So there was always this assumption that as the oldest, I would actually take over the business. But that's not the path I ended up taking. Completely different one, and that doesn't mean that prosciutto and the piano, in their own ways, don't really define me as a person and as Softvisioner, as a Softvisioner. In a way, they make me sort of unique within the company because they're unique parts of my background that I've learned invaluable lessons from. And you really all have these things about us, which makes us different. And different is not necessarily bad. Actually, different is pretty good. So this background a little bit on the piano, my very first keyboard was actually a piano. And like I said, to play piano, like many things, you have to spend a lot of time practicing and building that sort of that muscle memory. The mastery of the craft requires that there's no explicit thinking as you play, right? You cannot think about the chords that you're going to play. You just have to play the chords in the memory, and music has to flow naturally. Like you're not thinking, it's like you're in a haze where things happen, right? Hands dance in perfect harmony. And so I spent time understanding the scales and keys and composition, learning common patterns, and inevitably at one point, sort of musical, beautiful music emerges, right? It takes years to get good. It never ends. And I think it's a great analog to computer programming. If you think about it, right? You're always learning. Chips get smaller. Computers harness more power. Form factors multiply. Experience through software expands boundaries. Limitless. There's something else, always something else to learn. The game changes, right? So it all requires constant evolution of one's craft. So see, I actually started my career programming actually when I was 9. I was always, wanted to explore these things, right? So my mother's textile business needed a simple inventory management and something that I thought I could help with after tinkering around with Commerce 64 for about a month. So I decided to do something about it. And I wrote a program that clogged the floppy disk storage. As you know, the inventory file was too large, and at one point, poof, the program would crash because the disk could never be loaded into memory. So it was a total failure. The capacity really on the old school Commodore 64 floppies wasn't large enough, and that's okay. But it didn't work out. I learned something about that too. It was my first applied programming experience, and it introduced me, even through failure, to the problem solving that this still new world of programming may offer. So through the programming work, I started my understanding of my mom's business, and then I projected it to my father's business. So just continued learning really. So I got my first laptop when I was 17, and on ThinkPads, you look at that ThinkPad over there. I think it is, yes. They look pretty ugly today. I built the software custom to the family charcuterie business actually, and that took me a lot more than a month. It took me over a year to build, and I did it all myself. It ran on DOS, this operating system from Microsoft. It was written in Clipper. It was a modified, Clipper. Maybe you guys remember, a modified basic version had its own file-based management, sort of a D-based type. So I wanted to write it on C because I like C better, but it was too much work for the intent of the program, really. It was more about, a filing mechanism and a core process. So I'm sure that you remember this, the dilemmas between what programming language, and this still today, right? The software was so custom to the family craft that it ran for over 15 years. And supported the scale and growth of the charcuterie business as it expanded in more volume, different product lines, and additional distribution channels. So that's when I understood the huge value of software, and that the software has when it truly marries to the core process or to an experience. And this piece of software really was the pillar that enabled, in a way, or helped in a way, my family business growth. So what's the point of all this really? What of this talk about the piano and the prosciutto, and how does it really, and how does that connect and have to do with you? And I believe that we all have something. Each of us has our piano or our prosciutto, something that defines us, that makes us who we are, that we really carry, and it teaches us lessons of the importance of craftsmanship, of client service, of collaboration, and ultimately of humanity, right? We take this with us in our professional lives and personal experiences, and we all have an opportunity to use these lessons for a larger and a greater good. Here, I mean, you see in the pictures some collaboration scenarios, some stuff that we've done during COVID, where we are all working from home and we are like showing off our pets dressed in Cognizant Softvision costume, and a lot of collaboration that happens in our studios around the world. That's when the individuality and the collective sort of mingle, right? It's a simple belief, really, that uniqueness makes you stronger, and collectively, uniqueness forms the basis of diversity at the community level. To me, when you understand the value of your past, you can use that to become anything you want to be. And that's a cultural belief, sort of a cultural trait that we endorse here at Softvision. We believe in different paths. We believe in roads less traveled. And for programmers, your life and your journey extends beyond code and the business. And it's about sharing who you are, really. It's about bringing your whole self each day, not just the programming skills, but your talents and your personality. So we can achieve, we call this this achievement or this journey of the maximum potential in any pursuit. That's what we actually call mastery. And mastery for us is more than just a skill that you've worked on. Mastery is about individuality that is so developed and personally understood that it can be projected to the collective. So let me just really unravel this, unpack this thought. Everyone, as we said, is unique, and that not only drives us towards personal growth, but when uniqueness becomes part of a bigger community, the culture and the environment that you contribute to, those traits, that individual experience makes the team member, you as a team member and overall the team, the best that they can actually be. So, how to cultivate it, right? The key is how to scale this and how to cultivate it. We don't have a firm recipe, but we have some learnings. And we see 3 ways of mastery if we want to, and there may be more, but at least let me just figure these 3 out for you. And the first one is embrace cross disciplines. And this is something that we learned here. Some programs just want to code and not get involved in other aspects of a particular business. But here at Softvision, we really train for diversity at every level. We see the value in having a larger perspective because it makes us more proactive. And we see the value in understanding skills outside of your normal function and for sharing ideas across the organization. And it's about asking, how can I learn something new and beneficial from something not obviously tied to my own career path, my just straight line? How can I teach also my skills to somebody that comes from a different career path, that has a different background? Our communities are rich, and there's quite a lot of variety, from designers to front-end engineers to data architects, QA teams, AI experts, product managers, and beyond, right? We see ourselves expanding in the skill sets that we have. This access to different people and different perspectives is a key element that really helps build mastery. So if you think about it, being exposed to everything means that you are constantly learning. And we have hundreds of examples at Softvision where people rise to the next level because of the environment, because the environment really fosters that. So we learn from multiple proficiencies, which creates unique and impactful team members. Take ALINA, for example. She joined the company 4 years ago as a software developer. She's an enterprise coffee community lead now. Enterprise coffee is what we call Java, but we found a funnier name for it. And she works out of a Timișoara studio in Romania. ALINA is actually a contemporary dancer. She rocks the stage in technical skills as well as her artistic projects. So ALINA was our featured speaker on the Java stage at Go Tech World in Bucharest. It's one of the largest tech events in Europe. She created our R&D internal project Compass, which came out of her career path in the community. Many other leaders from other studios are following her path and doing exactly that. Obviously, I would love to have time to cite everybody, but we just had to pick a few, and we basically rotate the many talents that are thriving in our communities. And this is how our communities fuel the growth of our people. Where engagement also, that engagement of the individual and the community benefit the partnerships with our clients as well. So it brings back, right? Mastery is also achieved through bringing purpose to the community. That's the soul of the community, right? So your community in this case can be as small as your immediate pod, maybe your family, friends, maybe your town. At Cognizant Softvision, we have a defined framework for communities. And communities really have to have a soul, right? Without that, there's no progress. And that soul is transparency in its purpose. But everybody brings purpose to it. So bringing purpose to community means applying what you learn in areas that you're intrinsically passionate about because you care about the outcome. Whether there's sharing something you've recently learned with those around you, or helping a team member to train up or skill, or building software to support a local cause, mastery is built by applied effort. It's a path to learning valuable new things about something you believe you already fully understand and you can share with others. So here's Daniela, another example. She's one of our team members of Softvision, and she was born in Buenos Aires, a completely different region, and is the only techie in the family. Her passion for technology grew from a young age as an avid video game player. After receiving a computer as a gift during school, she was introduced to graphic design and was immediately drawn to it. Being able to creatively bring things to life and design things with meaning became sort of her true passion. Today, she's a UX designer, so she works in product design, an ambassador for women for UX in Argentina, where she empowers women to share their knowledge and learn from different experiences. So, you know, we not only have internal communities, but, you know, you normally extrapolate and go external and build external communities, or sometimes chair external communities, as Daniela has done here. So I'm sure, as it happened to many of you, technology has been, for me, technology has been the vehicle to truly change my life. You know, you've seen in the photos, that's where I'm coming from. At Cognizant Softvision, really, our proudest moments are when we look back and see that programmer that started barely coding in one language or maybe a script, and seeing him or her become a lead in a pod, a lead in a community, a speaker in an international conference, and who knows from there. We have so many great talents really that are thriving and reaching new levels of personal and therefore community daily, that mastery is our organization's higher purpose. You always have a purpose as a business, but mastery is our higher purpose. Is that what makes us feel good with ourselves? And my last one, the third, is, you know, path to mastery is really just challenge your own individuality. The journey to mastery is not a solo flight. So it's a collective journey. It begins with your craft, but comes full circle when you bring it to others and when you take from others. And it's all part of the process. I think about, you know, playing the piano here. It's not just about how it makes me feel, but how others feel as well as they listen. Likewise, you know, a charcuterie business is, yes, it's just a business, but the experience to deliver for a wedding or a special occasion, and just when people just sit down and talk outside in a coffee shop, or like at a table outside, sometimes you see a lot of it in our, you know, mostly in Europe and in our geographies, kind of that builds relationship, right? So individuality contributes to mastery. But at Cognizant Softvision, we win, lose, celebrate, commiserate as a team, as a community. As individuals, we make up communities. We have creative design, QA, enterprise software, DevOps, are not just capabilities that we have. They are communities with real people, with real purpose. So our mission is to grow as individuals and become stronger together as collective. This is what you're going to find as you learn more about us. And this is what we call generically guilds, which are groups of communities in a similar domain that share the path to mastery. For example, a mobile guild nests all the various mobile communities around the studios and embraces all types of programming languages, frameworks, design patterns, experience metaphors, the central craftsmanship of mobile design and engineering available by all and for all within the community and within the guild. So does our team, right? So each member of the team is encouraged through guilds, our working pods, our engagement programs, and so much more to be exactly who they are and challenge their individuality as the community around them shows them different perspectives, right? So that's where you challenge, you see things and you see different paths. You know, my piano, my prosciutto were different things that I bring in, maybe not explicitly, but implicitly, and that forms, that's how communities become richer. They become better adjusted, more balanced, more cohesive, and ultimately more powerful. So naturally, this collective mastery allows us to build great things. And what for me, you know, my journey started with prosciutto and lots of piano and a lot of trial and error with the Commodore 64. But today, I don't make charcuterie for a living or play on stage. But these things make me who I am, and I apply my unique history to work every day. We have been involved in building some internet classics like Mozilla's Firefox, the group of mobile app which captivated millions and downloaded more than 200 million times from the App Store. We have helped our customers reimagine and rebuild banks for the digital native generation, where a bank account can open within a few minutes, where deposits pay higher yield simply because the process is more efficient, conceived natively in the cloud. We have taken companies online, businesses that now are growing today an order of magnitude over their traditional businesses that paid for the engagement in the first place. Every day, our work is changing companies their journeys, and their customers' experiences. We've been doing this from homes and studios around the world with our global team. Virtual and distributed teams has been second nature to us because we are actually and truly connected by communities. So it really doesn't matter where you're from. Our collective craft is the basis of our culture and identity. And this is what our meaning of mastery at the core is. And this is our essential organizational pursuit. As I said before, our true purpose. So let me summarize. It's a bunch of drawings here. Here's me and some light bulbs that sort of have turned on throughout my career. Things that I've learned, experiences that have become central to the value system, that has influenced our sort of transformative vision and our function in society as a whole. This is the stuff that I'm emotionally connected to and I obviously deeply believe in. So let's start on the left. I've always strived to evolve, and I've made an effort to evolve linear organization thinking and structures into networked groups around the world, making high quality connections possibly and enabling flow. So moving from rigid hierarchies to flow through network. This network paradigm allows ideas to flow free, and through cross-functional, multidisciplinary teams, problem statements are truly deconstructed as innovation opportunities to either change how we work, boost experiences that already exist, and or create new experiences through software and better insights through a more thorough collection, understanding, and prediction of data. So the arts, the musical impact really, the piano and the prosciutto live in the underpinnings of my journey because they created the basis, the appreciation from infancy of growth-mindedness, and a love and appreciation of craftsmanship as opposed to standardization. Again, so craftsmanship as opposed to standardization. Craftsmanship at scale in our digital age is possible now. It may have not been possible before, and that's why the Industrial Revolution took over, but now through our connectivity, our real-time connectivity, it is actually possible. And craftsmanship must exist for experiences through software to continually mature, to continually evolve the performance of teams, sometimes adjustment work parameters, and sometimes changing the game altogether, and ultimately enable an emotional connection. So this growth mindset has proven to seed really and scale a culture where we can retain the talent, so people stay here, invest, tolerate more, appeal to the collective. And the growth of the people through the results that we have delivered to our customers has in turn enabled the growth of our own business. So it kind of feeds the machine, right? Has enabled a successful integration into a larger company that is Cognizant, and is gradually, as more Cognizant takes from our methods and our culture, we actually make a larger impact into the much larger pool, right? We are confident really that collective mastery is the strongest and the most credible path to sustainable innovation, because it is, at the end of the day, a vehicle for social mobility and to a more equal, balanced society overall. So these are a little bit of things that we truly believe that have become our vision and purpose. So that's my short message today. And then do you really look into your journey, find your prosciutto and your piano and project it. Project it. So how can you use those subtle parts of who you are to collectively make a larger, bigger impact, improve your own career paths, your experience, and your community. So I hope you keep enjoying Programmers Week, and I think we'll have Maria a few questions right now. Yes?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Andres, for this inspirational talk. And yes, we do have a couple of questions. I'm going to read them out loud so that all the attendees can hear them. The first one is, how do you see this craft of programming becoming more and more adopted by younger generations?
Yeah, so I think, we believe a lot in community inclusion as well, and being in the community. I mean, that's external, our internal communities reaching out to external communities, from a much younger age. So what we need to do is probably a little bit better on, on the school system. We normally go to universities. I think that we need to start, private enterprise needs to start younger than that, and start touching kids at a younger age so that they can cultivate the love for this, and project a career around this.
Hoping that answered your question. Let's move on to the next one. And this one comes from Eugenio. So thank you, Eugenio, for posting your question. It starts with saying, thank you, Andres, for the personal touch in today's session. Definitely loving the family business, by the way. Who doesn't, right? Looking forward, how do you see the studio journey evolving in the near future?
Very interesting, good question. So there are two things that we need to evolve. For us, the studio is many, many things, but beyond, some people see the studio as a physical place. For us, it's more of a virtual place, and it really captures a whole geography. I see the studios more as really culture hubs, beacons of our culture. And I see that what that will make much more special is as we interconnect more around the network. But as the network becomes stronger, the studios become stronger as well. So the ability to connect up different communities from studios around the world will be our ability to really truly differentiate in the market, and differentiate each of and every one of our careers as well.
Perfect. Thank you for answering the question, Eugenio. If you have any other comments, let us know if we answer your question. The next one is, since the focus of the talk is mastery, what skills does a CEO like yourself master, and what skills do you believe every human being should master? So let's take out our notebooks and let us know.
Yeah, so I think that, very good, thank you. So empathy is one of the skills that a CEO needs to master, right? A CEO needs to understand the very fabric of the culture that it's bringing, how people think and how they learn, how they project themselves to the customer. So that's one of the main traits that you kind of have to develop as a CEO and as a leader, really. And then obviously, creativity is essential here, because as the world is changing so much, I think that one of the main traits that will prolong us and survive us as individuals and as collective is our creativity, our ability to challenge how we work and to project and really change the game. So those two, I guess, creativity and empathy, are truly, key to development as an executive, not just a CEO, as like any leader, really.
How about the second part of the question, any human being, as the question says?
I forgot, I'm a robot. So as a human being, honestly, I think that what we need it's just getting more involved and just understanding, what is the impact of what we're doing in the company and how we can actually impact society overall. We have such an incredible opportunity in tech to socially mobilize. As you know, if you compare, you go to statistics, you see, how much in any market really, how much a programmer makes versus, and I know it's very tactical, but it's very important, right? Versus the average of that market, you will see a tremendous uplift. So we have really a true vehicle of social mobility because we impact millions. Really, our programming has the ability to impact and connect millions together. So I think that, that's what normally, I think about is, as a human being, how can I help areas, other geographies that may not have the full access to this? How do you actually train up? We were thinking the other day, how do we do it in our local communities or our regional communities? In my hometown, I was talking to the mayor of my hometown a few days ago, and we were trying to figure out, how do we train people here? And there are basic deficiencies, and sometimes some places are not considered kind of tier 1. Some of the deficiencies, language, so they speak a different language. They don't speak English, right? So it's not just about training a specific programming language. It's seeing at that demographics and that region and socioeconomical characteristics as a whole, and figuring out a plan that applies and works for that particular. And that's, for us, to be honest, it has been kind of the genesis of the studio, which is what works for the studio, the autonomy, the individuality. Not every client in every studio is the same. Things that work in the US don't necessarily work in Romania, or things that work in Romania not necessarily work in India. So we gotta think very, very custom to the intrinsic culture that that place actually has. And that's the human part of it, right? So if you try to industrialize this and build a rigid process that will apply to every place the same, you will come across different cultures that will basically reject it's like the antibodies, right? You will just reject what you're bringing because you're not really understanding the underlying culture. So that's the human aspect of this, just really understanding the underlying, right? The underpinnings.
Great. We have a couple of more questions, and the next one is, what was different since the pandemic?
Oh yeah, a lot. I think, we had some studios that, where people would work in the office all the time, because this sort of what we also inherited from the culture. And then we thought, that's the way we do it. Like, we were used to that normal, but now it's just like the normal has been sort of reconfigured. And we believe that now work, place of work is going to be optional, right? So we are thinking about how do we bring this mastery and collective to a community that's not always going to be in the same place. That's going to work from home. That sometimes it's going to come to the office. Sometimes, so it really changed at how we're looking at and really put another emphasis on the relevance and importance of the communities. Because the communities are the ones that actually connect. It's not just your project, right? So you can be working on a project for a customer and then you can change projects, but it's not the project, it's more the community that connects up. And that, the community leaders follow your career path, connect you up with other members of the same community that are like you, they're following the same path. So we believe two things really. We believe in optionality, that's going to be a factor of the new normal. And the second aspect will be, how can we, really repurpose or bring more substance to community in order to have additional projects, R&D, different things that you would do in order to grow your craft, working from anywhere while you remain increasingly engaged, right? So that's something that we're thinking through. We're testing things in different studios, and hopefully will allow us to emerge much stronger than pre-COVID, because we might have figured out another way to scale, right? Which is, tapping into geographies that we wouldn't have thought of before. So it's I see it as an opportunity really post-COVID.
And because at the beginning of the talk, we were saying that, of course, like in everyone's life, we have ups and we have downs. I have a question that goes in that area. How many hours did you spend programming initially in order to master the skill? And what was the biggest motivator when things didn't work out?
I'm quite passionate, so I used to get really upset when the code didn't compile. So I used to get really upset. And that's part of it, right? But don't give up. Don't also, refrain from, being emotional about certain things. So I used to spend a lot of hours, to be honest. When I came back, so I went to college for a year, didn't like it, dropped out of college, and then continued and finished. But so I came back to my town, and I would spend 4 hours. It was like a full-time job for me when I was actually programming my dad's charcuterie business system. I took it very, very seriously. When I was a kid, like much younger, well, I still was a kid when I was 17, 18, but when I was much younger, probably a couple of hours, 1-2 hours a day.
Okay, and one last question. You started as a programmer and now you're a CEO, right? What do you think makes the difference to really grow in tech companies and become leaders?
I think that the difference is you have to have something in the gut, and you want to be able to change something, right? And you start doing it through your programming first, because your programming definitely will change experiences. It makes things easier if it's effective. And then you think about, the talent part for me came later. I was like, as I said, I was a nerd. I just like to be by myself and just creating things. And then I understood that individual, like just me, was going to do so much that I could actually give a lot to others and get from others. So that's when I started teaming up, right? And that's probably what started projecting my career as CEO, where I understood that, hey, you know what? I think, you know, I could learn to lead. I could learn to understand people. I could learn to actually, you know, improve the career, help people get better as I get better. So that sort of got me into seduced really with a leadership role that I never thought before. I could have actually followed the, you know, more of the mastery path around knowledge in a particular domain. But it just became more general for me. Probably maybe because I wasn't that good at programming.
Okay, and I know that I said that would be the last one, but this one is too good not to ask it. So thank you, Alejandro, for asking the question. What's your prediction for the tech industry in 2021? Who is the great winner of the pandemic?
To be honest, guys, I think that if I want to predict, I mean, we are in the, you know, we're huge changes coming. The acceleration of digital has you know, really taken over the world. It's going to redefine who the winners and losers are in the Fortune 500 for sure. A lot of those companies are going to drop out of the Fortune 500 because they have not achieved a sustainable transformation, and they have not really incorporated innovation. Opportunities for companies like that, like us, I think are huge because we are in a constant pattern of learning. And I think we have kind of created that muscle that continually learns. We can win in the market because our model, and I'm convinced that our model is the winning model in the market. It's a model of high retention. It's a model of cohesion, a model of diversity, right? That embraces and cultivates a progressive culture. I see ourselves as winners. However, we are going to see a lot of tumbles and falls. And why? Because there will be a lot of businesses that won't be able to catch up to this. And I think we do have a responsibility because we are, in a way, if you think about it, we're kind of privileged in what we do because we are at the hype of what's coming and actually in many cases defining what is coming, but also we're leaving a lot behind. And as if we cannot bring people at the same level of mastery in their own skills where they cannot, where their jobs are not gonna or cannot be or would not be automated, then we, you know, the imbalance of society will actually be greater at one point. And I'm not really a pessimistic futurist that says that, you know, machines will take over. I'm not that kind of person, really. I don't think so. I think we can turn this for the better. But if we just think about industrialization and we're not thinking about mastery as we plan forward for the future, especially as leaders, we may basically destroy certain industries right now, that where the component of humanity will kind of be lost and replaced by machines. It's possible, but I think that we are not there yet. And if we, you know, forward our mastery-based models, and not just at Softvision, but overall, you know, across the world, we won't, you know, we will elevate the humankind to a level where, you know, humanity will be, you know, the skill that companies are looking for, and then machines can do the rest, right? But so I think that, you know, in this process, it's like, you know, the Industrial Revolution, the digital revolution is by no means, you know, less revolutionary. Really, it's going to be a lot of that. So we will see a lot of up and downs in the industry, and it's kind of our social responsibility. I believe we have a social responsibility of just bringing back our mastery and as just basically including segments of the population that we wouldn't have thought of to start with.
Perfect. So on this note, the message would be human, be kind to each other. Thank you so very much, Andres, for giving us 1 hour of your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending this talk. We hope that you have an idea now on what it takes to achieve mastery and honing your craft. And of course, if you want to see again this presentation, you have a recording that will be made available. And if you have any other questions, just send us an email at pw@softvision.com. And of course, enjoy the rest of Programmers Week. And don't forget, dare to code. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy Programmers Week.